The mother just cracked the egg into the hot frying pan. The son immediately scooped it up and stuffed it in his mouth. Even though the mother often felt helpless, her love for her mentally handicapped son never diminished. But her son, with an IQ of only 3 years old, always gave her a hard time. He always used shampoo to brush his teeth, and when he washes his hair, he always uses toothpaste. Even to get dressed, he had to jump up and down for half a day. For 30 years, his mother raised him like a baby, and both mother and son lived very frugally. They lived from the street kiosk, but soon his mother noticed that her hands were shaking constantly, and every day she woke up with a headache. So she went to the hospital for a checkup, but the doctor told her she had terminal brain cancer. Even if she had an operation, it would only prolong her life by 1 year at most. When she heard the news, her mother sat on the floor. Her eyes were filled with pain and confusion, until the sound of sparks came from the microwave. Then the mother came back to her senses. It turned out that her stupid son had put the can into the microwave to heat it up. The mother hurriedly pulled down the electric switch to avoid the tragedy. Looking at her inexperienced son, the mother suddenly realized, before she died, she had to entrust her son to someone who could take care of him. So she took her son, Jack, and rushed to her daughter's clothing shop. She took out a bank book and decided to give her daughter her life savings and her only son. But as she was about to enter, she found her daughter and son-in-law arguing over money. It turned out that her daughter's marriage wasn't very happy either. Her son-in-law pushed Jack's sister to the ground, but Jack suddenly rushed over and pushed his brother-in-law against the wall. Then he picked up the prosthetic limbs of the model on the floor and was going to hit his brother-in-law, but his sister stood in front of him and slapped him hard. It turned out that she didn't like his brother, who was a drag on the family. The next moment, the mother slapped her daughter in the face. Although Jack's IQ is only a few years old and he can't take care of himself, but he treats his sister as one of his closest relatives. He even went out of his way to protect her when she was hurt. But it was his sister's words and the slap that made his mother realize that she was not someone she could trust. So the next day, she took her son to look for a suitable nursing home, but the home was run like a prison. Through the window, she could see her son suffering as if he were a prisoner. Suddenly Jack took his mother's hand and panicked, saying he didn't want to be here. She saw her son's fear of this place. The mother realized that this was not the right place for her son. On the bus home, mother and son held each other's hands, but the mother's eyes were filled with pain. She didn't know how her son would live after her death. In the end, the mother made a painful decision. She sealed the doors and windows with duct tape. Then she sat next to her sleeping son and slowly lit the charcoal in her hand. She wanted to end her life and her son's in such an extreme way. But then her son's sleepy words suddenly came from behind her. The mother was so frightened that she hid the charcoal in her hand. Then Jack said he wanted to eat eggs in the morning. The mother stared at her sleeping son for a moment. Then she began to sob. And then she realized, although she was going to die, her son had a life of his own. So the mother decided to train her mentally handicapped son to live independently. But the process was very difficult. At first, she taught her son how to fry eggs. He would throw the eggs into the pan with the shells. She taught her son to take the bus alone, but her son couldn't remember the bus routes. So the mother reflected on her own way of teaching. She looked into the books on the subject and patiently found the right way to teach her son. She drew a simple map herself to help her son memorize the bus routes. She also labeled the buttons of household appliances and taught her son how to shave. With her mother's patience and step-by-step guidance, her son gradually learned to take care of himself. But one evening, Jack choked on his bread, so he grabbed a bottle of wine and drank it instead of water. At that moment, he saw some high school students whispering to him, and his inferiority complex got the better of him. Without saying a word, he ran over and beat them up. When his mother rushed to the police station, the son told her he was being bullied. But one look at the police officer and the mother seemed to understand what was going on. She went to the parents and apologized sincerely. When she was done with it, the mother thought of teaching her son not only how to take care of himself, but also how to get along with others. So she asked a neighbor to find her son a job in a bakery. But on his first day of work, Jack snuck the ham out of his sandwich and stuffed it in his mouth. But it wasn't long before Jack assaulted another customer at the bakery. But when the mother arrived at the police station, she realized it was still Jack's fault. The son told his mother in tears because they were talking about him behind his back and called him a fool. That's why he went over there and beat them up. When he got home at night, his mother patiently explained to him that people didn't hate him. But the son cried and told his mother a secret he'd been hiding for a long time. Jack said that his mother had always hated him too. The mother froze in her tracks. Jack's father died when he was very young. He was carrying milk to comfort his crying mother, but he accidentally broke the milk glass. And then his mother, who was devastated, saw this and shouted at Jack that Jack was a fool. It turned out that the mother's scolding of her son has become a shadow that will never be erased from his heart. She repeatedly apologized and comforted him. After that, she used to help out at the bakery. She even took him to the market to greet the neighbors. The mother wanted to teach her son by example. No one hated her son because of his illness. People can be kind to each other. With the help of his mother and colleagues, her son became more confident and optimistic. And although Jack was mentally retarded, he was kind at heart. He even fell in love with the kindergarten teacher. Whenever he had time, he would peep outside the kindergarten with binoculars. So the mother thought that while her son felt the beauty of humanity, She also had to make him realize that the world was a cruel place, so the mother cheered her son up. She told her son to have the courage to confess to the girl he liked. On the other hand, she found a kindergarten teacher. She asked her to reject her son. As you can imagine, Jack's confession was doomed to failure, but the kindergarten teacher agreed to be Jack's best friend. One day the mother had to go to the hospital for a checkup. She told her son to make his own breakfast. When she came home in the evening, she saw a clean and tidy room. The mother was stunned. It turned out that her son had grown up a lot without realizing it.